Hello, and thank you everyone for joining today's special topic webinar, the Liver Wellness Program, presented by the American Liver Foundation. My name is Carla. I am the Director of Education and Partnerships at NeedyMeds. And before we get started, I want to go over a few points that will help you make the most out of today's presentation. First of all, if you have any questions, you can type them in at any time into the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel, but no, we will reserve answering questions until the end. If we don't have time to answer your question, we'll follow up with you personally via email. Of course, the contact information for both NeedyMeds and the American Liver Foundation will be provided. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on the NeedyMeds YouTube channel. And there are copies of the PowerPoint slide decks used during this webinar in the handout section of your control panel. So let's get started with what is NeedyMeds. For those of you who are not familiar with who we are, what you are looking at on your screen is our mission statement and a statement about how we achieve our mission. But simply put, NeedyMeds connects people to programs that will help them afford their healthcare expenses. And we do that free and anonymously through our website, needymeds.org, and our helpline, 1-800-503-6897. I always like to put up a screen of our homepage because our website is really the face of our organization, and it gives me a chance to point out just a few things I think you'd be interested in. First of all, if you are looking for healthcare savings resources, you will find those under the Patient Savings tab. I mentioned that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, and you can find a link to that right at the top of our homepage with the rest of the social media icons. It's the third one from the left. And to check out what other webinars are coming up and to register, please visit our calendar of events on the bottom right-hand side of our page. So let's move on to why everybody's really here, which is for today's webinar, Liver Wellness, presented by Warren Hall from the American Liver Foundation. So first, let me tell you a bit about the American Liver Foundation. Their mission is to facilitate, advocate, and promote education, support, and research for the prevention, treatment, and the cure of liver disease. So let me tell you a little bit about Warren. Warren came to the American Liver Foundation with a background in education and counseling, and both come in handy in his work on the helpline and with the Foundation's ongoing support services. Last year, the National Helpline assisted over 10,000 inquiries regarding liver health, liver disease, and related issues. Today, Warren is going to share his expertise with us and cover how the liver functions and the causes of and risk factors and treatments for the most prevalent liver diseases. So without further ado, and hopefully seamlessly, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic and the screen to Warren. And as he takes that over, I will remind you all that you can go ahead and type any questions you may have into that question section of your GoToWebinar control panel. And with that, I'll pass the mic to Warren. Enjoy.
Thank you, Carla, very much for that nice introduction. I'm really looking forward to this webinar, and I appreciate the honor, really, of being asked to do it. The perspective that I'll be coming from in this webinar is, as Carla mentioned, my experience on the helpline at the American Liver Foundation. So often, what the people who contact us will say is, "I wish I knew about this before X, Y, and Z happened." And what we think of this as is so many of our physical or physiological functions happen without our thinking about it. So like we breathe, we don't think about breathing until there's a problem with our breathing. We don't think about our heart beating and doing its job until we have a problem there. The same is true for the liver. The liver, as we're going to go over here, performs so many important functions in our body, and we don't even think about it happening until there becomes a problem. The liver most especially has a component to it that we'll talk about, and that is the fact that very often while our liver is experiencing trouble, we don't know it. And we'll talk about a reason why that will happen. So we're very happy to be presenting this uh, webinar for everybody, so that we'll be ahead of the game and know hopefully how to keep our liver healthy before we ever encounter any problems or issues with it. So as you'll see on the screen now, the liver itself performs over 500 functions. Many of these are little functions that we don't even know about, that we can't tell. But on the screen there, we do have a few of the more well-known functions and what the liver does for us. So we'll see the first thing is that the liver acts like a filter. So everything that we bring into our body, so that's everything, most notably what we eat and drink. Okay, those are pretty well known, but also everything we breathe and even the things that get absorbed through our skin are filtered into our bloodstream, into our body, eventually makes its way to the liver, that the liver will then process it out. We'll also see that the liver in its processes helps to build our muscles. It uses the proteins that we take in through nutrition and helps with the storage and also the strengthening of our muscle tissue. The liver helps to make a bile. Bile is an acid that our liver produces that gets secreted into our stomach and to the intestines, that helps to break down food. When we talk about digest foods, right, we're talking about the breaking down of food into its most basic elements, the nutrients. Whenever we hear the word biliary, or bilirubin, okay, that's referring to bile. That's where the root word comes from. And so whenever we hear that in regard to our own liver testing, or to whatever when our doctor's speaking to us, or if we're reading anything, biliary means a bile, and it has to do with that acid that's produced for a good reason, and that is to help break down the foods and the nutrients that we eat. The liver also helps to produce the blood cells that will stop cuts from bleeding. So when we cut our finger, the immediate thing we want to happen is we want a scab to form. And so the liver's involvement with our blood cells help in that process. The liver helps to kill germs, and so therefore any as it those the foods and those toxins or whatever that just by life and by living come into our body, the liver is going to help to eliminate those from our body. And that's what goes along with our last bullet there: detoxify substances that are harmful to our body. Now the first thing that most people always think of, and we'll talk about this, the stigma of this, is alcohol. And so, and that is indeed one of the substances that our liver will help to detoxify, to get out of our bodies. But also, just even good food is going to have a byproduct that will need to be removed from our body. And we refer generally to them as toxins, but we'll also hear the phrase ammonia. That's what gets most known by us in this regard. So a good, healthy liver is performing all these functions without us even thinking about it. About 540 gallons of blood a day filters through our liver, and so the liver is really doing quite a job, as we said, without our even noticing it. And so this even speaks more to the importance of us trying to keep it as healthy as we can. Now, no, sometimes, no matter how hard we try to keep ourselves healthy, liver disease is going to happen. Not to everybody, certainly, but even people we hear so often on the helpline: I eat right, I try to do the best I can with everything, and yet my doctor tells me that I have a liver disease. And so liver disease, we'll see on this slide that I have up now, liver disease happens. 30 million Americans right now is what we will, the general number that we talk about. At the helpline at the American Liver Foundation, we get contacts from people all around the world who are experiencing issues with liver. But for our purposes here, 30 million Americans have some kind of disease. And so we'll see here that the basic diseases that are most well known, there's going to be other more rare diseases that we'll talk about, but we'll see another well known one: viral hepatitis. and that most notably in the United States are hepatitis A, B, and C. We're going to talk about that word hepatitis in a second because that can be confusing because there's hepatitis and then there's viral hepatitis. So we'll get to that in a second. Fatty liver disease, the most common, no doubt, of the diseases, is just what the name says. It means that there's fat around our liver, and when that occurs, if we think of the liver as that filter we talked about, anything covering it is going to impact its effectiveness. Think of a screen, right? That wind, the breeze can blow freely in and out of, but as dirt or whatever accumulates on it, it hampers that function. And the same is true for our liver. So fatty liver disease is something that we'll be talking about. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. As I said before, there's a stigma whenever we hear of liver disease. Unfortunately, many people's thoughts immediately go to alcohol, right? We think of perhaps family members, when we think of somebody who has cirrhosis, that's unfortunately where our mind goes first nowadays. And so part of what the Liver Foundation is doing is we're trying to remove that stigma because the fact is that alcohol is one way of many different ways that liver disease can happen, even to the point where researchers and scientists have called this non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Again, on the helpline, people call us and they'll say, my doctor told me I have liver disease, I have fatty liver disease, but I don't drink, or I haven't had any substantial alcohol since I was in college, and now I'm in my 50s. And so that's why the doctors and researchers have made specifically calling this non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because that helps people to understand that there's many other ways that this could occur. Cirrhosis is kind of that last stage of damage of the liver. Cirrhosis, or you'll hear referred to as a cirrhotic liver. That is the most damaged liver. We're going to literally take a look at that in a few moments. And hepatocellular carcinoma is liver cancer. And we'll have a little bit of a discussion about that as well. So unfortunately, liver diseases are on the rise, and part of it has to do with really our food supply. When we think about all the foods that are out there, many more foods now have chemicals and preservatives. Even our fruits and vegetables, they're being treated with pesticides and with other chemicals to assist in their growth or in their ripening. And because of that, we're beginning now to see that it's affecting people's liver because, again, the liver is that filter. And so unfortunately, liver disease is on the rise. And that's why webinars like this, as well as the educational materials that we get out to people, we want to raise people's awareness of trying to eat as healthy and as clean as possible. Unfortunately, when we think about organic food, when we think about the food that is really good for us in the health section of a store, or in the store itself that's dedicated to health foods, we're going to notice that those prices are a little bit higher, or in some cases a lot higher. And that's unfortunate because people's economic conditions sometimes force them to have to eat foods that are not as healthy or not as good or nutritious for us. But we have to really try to have an understanding and to have an awareness of the foods that we're eating, because again, we'll get to that third bullet there, right? The non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. A lot of that has to do with the foods and everything that we're eating now. So as we said, unfortunately, liver disease is on the rise, and that's why we want to make awareness on the rise, so that hopefully those numbers, hopefully within the next months and years, when we do presentations like this, we'll be able to very happily say that because of awareness, the liver disease numbers are going down. So here's a pictures now of what we'll see in the various stages of liver and liver disease, or progression of that. You see in the upper left-hand corner, that's what a healthy liver looks like. They refer to it as a half a football. And you can see that the skin of it is very smooth. It's a nice pinkish kind of a color, that means that all the cells are healthy. It means that the blood is flowing through there as it should. That's how we want our liver to look. We want our liver to look that way when we're born, and we want it to look that way all throughout our lives. And so there are certain things that need to be done in order for that to happen. And awareness is certainly, as we mentioned, one of them. So the second picture over now, we're going to see here now that this is, as the phrase says there, moderately scarred liver or fibrosis. Fibrosis itself really is referring to hardness. Okay, so again, if we think of the liver as this filter, almost like a sponge, right? It would have that kind of a consistency. If you were to press the liver, like blood would come out of it. And so when disease begins to affect the liver, when we mentioned fatty liver, when fat begins to surround the liver, harming it, it's going to develop fibrosis, which is going to make the consistency of the liver harder. Think of a sponge that you leave out, right? And it doesn't get wet and it begins to harden. And so that's kinds of what's happening. We'll see the little white specks in there. Now we're starting to see that some like little holes and spaces are beginning to form on the liver itself. Again, harming the organ, and all of this interfering in all those 500 functions that we talked about. And then in the upper right-hand side, we never, ever want to see this happening. But since liver disease can be progressive, this is what the liver will look like once it gets to the stage of really being scarred and damaged because of, again, fat or whatever it is. We'll talk about in a little while what really is causing this stuff. But you can see now the liver it's like falling apart, and it's beginning to separate itself, and it has lost that nice smooth texture that's needed for the liver itself to be able to perform those functions. And so we never ever want to see it get to that point, but unfortunately it does. A couple things now in general about the liver itself. Very often, as I mentioned before, that like many of our other body processes, we're not aware of it. This is especially true of the liver, because one of the characteristics, and there's a few very interesting characteristics about the liver separate from all the other organs, and that is the fact that the liver does not have nerve endings. And what that means is the fact that we're not going to feel whenever there's damage, right? Some of our other organs in our body, when something goes wrong, we feel a pain or an ache. And that's how we know. That's the body's way of saying to us, something's wrong here. It's a little different with the liver because there are no nerve endings, and therefore we're not feeling that damage that could be happening. People will say they went to the doctor, and while they were looking at their gallbladder, or while they were having a scan of their stomach, and the doctor said, oh, by the way, we see fat around your liver, or we see some cysts, or we see something else going on with your liver. And when people call us and they'll say, how could this be? I had no symptoms, I didn't feel it. And our response to that is, you won't feel it because of this fact of nerve endings. Now, it's a positive too. Now, those are the negative aspects of the liver not having nerve endings, is that there's damage, we don't know it. The positive side of that, and this is another really unique aspect of the liver itself, is that the liver can regenerate itself. It's the only organ that can do it. So even earlier on in our lives, let's say we ate things, or we drank things, or stuff that came into our bodies for whatever reason and whatever way, and created some problems for our liver, the liver was able to handle it. And so even though we might have been damaging the organ, it has the ability to regenerate, to rejuvenate itself, or very simply to say, to heal itself. And the good part about not feeling that is it's something that happens throughout our lives. And we wouldn't want to feel pain every single time that there was damage to the liver. It would kind of make us crazy. But the fact of the matter is that the liver is throughout our lives constantly healing itself. That's why when we look at these pictures here, to move from one stage to the other, it does take quite a while for that to happen. Liver disease is not something that occurs spontaneously. It's something that does develop, or the phrase we'll use is that it progresses over time. And that's because of this unique ability of the liver to heal itself. So it's always striving for health. It's like our body in general. Our body is always oriented toward living. And the same is true for the liver. It's always oriented toward being healthy and trying to remain healthy. The other aspect of this rejuvenational property of the liver is that if it comes to a time when someone, finally their liver is perhaps in that, as you see in the upper right hand corner there, when the liver gets really bad, the doctor says, you know what, we need to do a transplant. There is one option of a transplant called a living donor. And what's unique about this is that doctors can take a portion of a living donor, or of a person who's willing or can be a donor. They could take up to 2/3 of a healthy person's liver. They can transplant that into the person who needs the liver. And in both cases, the liver is going to rejuvenate, it's going to grow, and it's going to get itself not only to the right size for the space, which is unique in itself, but also to the proper level of functioning for that person. And again, that's really a unique aspect of the liver, and it's the way that living donation can happen. If you want more information on that whole living donor process, you can contact us, or go online, and you'll get the information about that. But again, that's all because of the properties of the liver. But the bottom line is the liver can only do that for a certain time and under so much, we'll call it, pressure. And then we begin to move along, as we see, to the moderately scarred and to the more heavily scarred aspects. So what causes liver disease? Okay, so now we've talked about the health of the liver. We see what happens. So now what causes this? Okay, and there's a couple of things, as you'll see. Viruses are one of the things that we'll see, that comes into our body and can have the effect of damaging our liver and giving it disease. Genetics. This is why, when you go to a doctor the first time, or maybe each year, the doctor will ask about a family history. Specifically, let's say when it comes to your liver, the doctor will ask, has anybody in your family ever had liver disease? Whether it's something that was, let's say, related to weight, or to eating, to drinking, as a number of these other diseases really are passed on through the genetics of a family. And so a doctor is always going to ask for your family history, because genetics, something we have no control over, can affect us and can bring about liver disease. So we want to be careful of that. Autoimmune disease. Now, autoimmune means that our bodies have this really great system of protection. So whenever a virus or a bug or something gets into our bodies can respond to that, and it attacks the foreign substance or the foreign object to literally try to eradicate it from our system. And that's wonderful. That's why we're able to to live in places where maybe the air is not the best, or if we're eating things, but our body's immune system can take care of that. But what happens in autoimmune disease is that not only is that aspect of our body going after what's bad, it begins to attack what's good. And that becomes problematic, especially for the liver. So what's happening is our immune system is confused, and it's seeing our liver or our bile ducts or whatever is going on in there. It sees it as being foreign to our bodies. And so it's going to respond in a negative way, and that's why we have autoimmune disease that can cause liver damage. Excessive alcohol use, I think that's the one, as I said, I think we all know about. Poor diet, obesity, we spoke about that too. Our food supply these days is not the greatest. We have to be really conscious of what we're putting into our body. And we have to realize that the food contains chemicals, and we want to try to have as little of that as possible in our bodies. And obesity, we have to be careful if we're overweight. to try to remove some of those excess pounds. That's great for our heart, but it's equally as good for our liver too, because it's going to get just the way we can see the fat that's around our bodies. We have to remember that that fat is going internally as well. And what happens is it surrounds our inner organs, and because the liver itself is that filter, like I mentioned, like that sponge, it can cause real trouble for our liver. And finally, reactions to medications or chemicals. When we all see those television ads, right, about various medications, and then they give you all the side effects, right? You'll always hear them say, have your doctor check for liver disease, right? Or have your doctor check for liver functioning. Because for one thing, is if there is some liver disease, it might have an effect on how well the medication will work for us. Because again, as a filter, we want to make sure the liver filters what's good and not what's bad. But if there's certain medications that cause the liver to be diseased, that gets confused and we're not getting the full beneficial effect of medications. And there are some medications or chemicals that literally themselves are creating the damage. If we've been taking medication over a long term, we should always be having our liver checked in our annual physicals, because we want to make sure that this medicine that's helpful to us is not creating harm for us. Okay, so what is hepatitis? Here's where some confusion happens. So the word hepatitis, right? If we think of it, let's break it apart. Hepa, H-E-P-A, is the Greek word for liver. Okay, so anything you see that has HEPA, let's say on your test results or whatever, is liver related. Okay, the doctors who are specialists are called hepatologists. Okay, that means that they are liver scientists or liver doctors. Okay, so anything that says HEPA is referring to the liver. Okay, titus means inflammation. Okay, and we know inflammation means like an irritation that occurs in this case on the liver itself. So hepatitis, generally speaking, is an inflammation of the liver. Okay, it can be caused, as we see there, by the autoimmune disease we spoke about before, the viruses, the alcohol, the toxins, and the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Okay, it can cause the liver to become irritated. It causes the liver to become inflamed. Okay, that is what hepatitis is. And then we'll move on now to see the other type of hepatitis is viral hepatitis. Okay, so this is different than the hepatitis, simply the inflammation of the liver. Viral hepatitis, ABC, that we most know here in the United States, is a virus, and this too can affect the liver. So as we'll see on the chart here, hepatitis A, B, and C. So A, we'll see how does hepatitis spread? Where do we get it from? Okay, so for A, it's food or water that's been contaminated. Okay, it's been contaminated, as you'll see there, by fecal matter if there's not good sewage or something like that. It comes through if food is bad, or let's say it's supposed to be frozen and it wasn't frozen. Okay, food care, we often hear about this in restaurants that don't have the proper way of caring for the food. We're going to see hepatitis A outbreaks. So how does it affect you? Okay, so how it affects you is it makes you feel really sick. It's like food poisoning. That's another phrase that we can use for this. However, our body in most cases can take care of this. 3 to 6 weeks, our body's immune system will take care of this. As long as we don't have an autoimmune disease that we're aware of, our body's immune system can identify this virus and take care of it. There is a vaccine for hepatitis A. It's something that we can get that will prevent us from contracting this. If we look all the way over to the right, how can we avoid getting this to begin with? Okay, so you want to wash your hands, after using the bathroom. For those who have babies, infants, children, when you're changing diapers, sometimes some of that fecal matter can get on our hands, right? And we want to make sure that we are cleaning our hands off to make sure that that does not get contaminate the foods that we eat and drink. Obviously, very directly, food or drink that has already been contaminated. Avoid raw shellfish. Now, many of us, I know, I like shrimp and we like lobster and things like that. Some people like sushi. I live in New York City and there's sushi on every corner, but we really have to be very careful of that. It's got to be, if we're going to have it, it's got to be from places that we know are good places that are clean, that the fish is fresh. We want to just be very careful where we have it, because shellfish really is a way that hepatitis A can be passed along. And then again, avoiding sexual behaviors that expose ourselves, to fecal matter in any way. So we just want to be careful of that. So hepatitis B now is going to be a little different. Hepatitis B, as it says there, is going to be transmitted because of our blood, body fluids, semen, vaginal fluid, and saliva that contains the virus. It affects us, as you'll see here. It's another one where our body's own immune system over time can take care of it. However, in 5% to 10% of healthy people, they're going to develop what's called a chronic infection. And chronic means more serious, that it doesn't go away. With chronic infection of hepatitis B, our body's really not able to take care of it, as we spoke about with hepatitis A. And this can lead to long-term damage to our liver. So if somebody is evaluated, they go for testing and they find they have hepatitis B, the next thing that they'll want to know is it chronic? And there's testing that could be done that will identify that. Good news, there is a vaccine for hepatitis B as well, and all people are recommended to get this vaccine so that they don't have to deal with hepatitis B at all. Okay, and so it's really important for folks who feel that they could be at risk of any of these things, that they'll get those vaccines for hepatitis A and B. Now, hepatitis C. This is the one that's most well known. A lot of health departments are taking very aggressive steps to try to eradicate hepatitis C. In New York City, I know we have, Hep C free NYC. I'm sure many places around the country where all of you are from, health departments are trying to address this as well. Hepatitis C, if you think about it, is very challenging to contract because it has to happen with direct blood-to-blood contact. Okay, as you see in the other, in hepatitis A and B, that's easy. There's food, there's more common body fluids or ways that it can be transmitted from one person to another. Hepatitis C is difficult if you think about it, but obviously it does happen. We'll talk in a second about how. As we see written there, 75 to 85% of people who become infected, same thing, will wind up having a chronic infection, which means it's long-term and it's going to attack the liver. Okay, that's the interesting thing about viral hepatitis, is that these viruses over time affect the liver. That's why they'll always want to do some liver testing to see, first of all, if it has happened, and then what we need to do if that is the case. So prevention, how do we prevent ourselves from contracting hepatitis C? So what you want to do is if you're of age where you're thinking of becoming pregnant, you want to get screened. As a matter of fact, these days, pretty much all physicians, when people go for their annual physical, pretty much nowadays, everybody is being screened for hepatitis C. Now, a lot of people will call us and they'll say, I'm 60 years old, I'm a baby boomer, and now they just told me I have hepatitis C, but I've never used drugs, I've never done any of the things that it seems that this is the way people get it. But what we remind people is that before 1990, so into the 1980s, the blood supply had not been screened yet for hepatitis C. And because of that, if anybody received blood or blood products because of a surgery or a childbirth, the blood that they had received could have been tainted with the hep C virus. And so what people will need to do is then find out, first of all, if the Hep C virus is active in their bodies. If it is, uh, thankfully, there are wonderful cures now. It used to be that hepatitis C was addressed almost with what was like a chemotherapy. It was very difficult for people. People got sick, and the treatment could last a year or more. Thank goodness, because of great research that's been going on over the past few years, newer medications are coming out that are clearing hepatitis C in anywhere from 6 to 8 to 12 weeks. And with little to no side effects. So this is where, when we hear about, research on medications and research on diseases, this is when things literally, quote unquote, pay off, is when we hear that a few years ago, the treatment made people sick, and now the treatment, without any issues at all for people, they're being cured, that they're being eradicated, the virus is being eradicated. And so that's really wonderful. The downside to Hep C is that there is no vaccine at this point. So that's still being worked on. So we're not there yet. There is no vaccine for this, but the again, prevention is to just be careful of that blood-to-blood contact. And again, if you look over to the right, you'll see in any type of unprotected sexual activities, got to be very careful. Those who may inject, inhale, or share drugs and needles, got to be very careful because of the transmission. Again, right, the direct blood to blood. Um, Even around the house, if there is somebody in the family who knows that they have hepatitis C, they'll want to be careful with sharing razors or toothbrush, even nail clippers, because sometimes we cut too close, there can be a little bit of blood that gets onto the nail clipper, and we want to make sure that we don't pass it on in a way that we don't even think about. We want to make sure that everything is sterilized. Even nowadays, if you go for your manicures and your pedicures, many of the spas now will tell you, or you'll see them, tear open a packet that has their utensils in it to show that they've been sterilized or that they're brand new. That's true in the final bullet there about those who want to get tattoos, that there's make sure that you're going to credible locations, that that the implements that they're using for the tattoo are going to be healthy, clean, and that will be free of any viruses or any types of bacteria. Okay. Uh, Here we spoke about most of this stuff already. Who should get tested for hepatitis B? Those who maybe have come from some of these nations where hepatitis B may be a problem, and have not been tested or screened for that, they should go get a test. If you have a family member, right, or a partner who has hepatitis B, you just want to make sure that first of all, that it has not been transmitted to you, so that you know that you can take precautions moving ahead. For those who may have multiple sexual partners, got to be very careful, because don't always know everyone's status, and unfortunately, folks are not always forthcoming about that. So we have to be very careful. There's other problems with that as well, but here we're specifically talking about hepatitis. And also healthcare workers. We want to, for those who put themselves in harm's way to help other people, sometimes they are in situations where people might be bleeding, or there may be circumstances where they will come in contact with people's blood or fluids, and it gets passed on that way. So if you're one of those folks that work in the healthcare industry, those frontline people, you'll want to be tested just to make sure that everything is okay. And then hepatitis C, we just spoke about this, right? If people receive blood before the screenings were happening, baby boomers between 1945 and 64, those who have been on hemodialysis, that's also over the long term, will want to be screened and be tested for this. These tests are very simple. It can use a finger poke and test to see if you have the virus or not. So it's not a very difficult test. to do, but very simple, but extremely important. And nowadays, everybody should try to be conscious of this. Okay, so that's there's a lot more information on the American Liver Foundation website about viral hepatitis, and we hope that if you have any questions, that you'll go there and get the information that you need, because understanding and knowledge really is the thing that is most effective in fighting not only viral hepatitis but any types of diseases. Okay, so again, now we'll move along to another way that liver disease happens, and that is with alcohol. And as we said, unfortunately, we all know that of what alcohol can do. So we don't need really to spend a whole lot of time on this here. The question is, how does why does alcohol create such a problem specifically for the liver? And it's all contained in that issue of thinking of the liver as a filter. Okay, alcohol has some very caustic elements to it. And those elements are very difficult for the liver to process. And so we need to have time for the liver to process what we're drinking. And because of that, when people binge drink, that means that you drink one drink after the other, after the other, after the other. Your body doesn't have the time to be able to process all of that alcohol. And over time, it does begin to damage the liver. And as we said before, although the liver can help itself over time, over many years of doing this, the liver begins to lose the ability to be able to do that. It's also why drinking will intoxicate us, because when we have all of that alcohol in our body that's not being filtered, those effects of the elements of the alcohol are what create that feeling of what they'll use the phrase euphoria. We'll get that drunk feeling, to use a street term. And that's because our liver is not filtering it. That's why, if you have one drink or two drinks over the course of a night, that's not going to happen. And that's because of the fact that the liver is able to do that. And so the bottom line for everybody is be very responsible, if you're drinking. Just be careful of your timing and what you're drinking. Don't binge drink, and we want to make sure that people are very careful with that, because it is one of the most caustic elements that our body can take in. So here we see, your liver breaks down the alcohol so that it literally can remove it from your body. So if you think about it, we're paying a lot of money for a beverage that the goal is to have our body get rid of it. But we want to make sure that we're not binging, for that reason. And if we are very careful about it, we'll be able to avoid things like the alcohol-related hepatitis, right? That scarring and that inflammation that can be caused because of the alcohol. Fatty liver disease, alcohol can cause that. And by being careful and being very conscious of what we're taking in terms of alcohol, we need to be careful with that. The alcohol-related cirrhosis, remember what that cirrhotic liver looked like, right? How it was all crumbling and breaking apart. That's because of alcohol doing that, so we want to be careful of that. Inflammation or swelling of the liver. One of the things that when somebody who has been drinking a lot, a doctor will determine that their liver is enlarged, right? And it's because of the effects of the alcohol. And then we'll see also here, there are other factors that play a role in how our body processes alcohol. One of the things that we think about, right, is somebody, big, tall, strapping, person, we think can drink a lot of beers, and be fine. And, somebody who's thin and frail, has to be careful. And that there is certainly something to that. But there's also genetic factors that affect how the body processes alcohol. As I mentioned, we have no control over that. It's something that gets passed down, but that does have an effect. Malnutrition. So many people, once they begin drinking, they forget to eat, or maybe they didn't forget it. Maybe they're not interested in eating. And so just taking all that alcohol into our bodies without any type of nutrition, anything else to be involved in the process, could lead to liver issues. And then the presence, if there's any other liver disorders or any other illnesses or things, health issues we may have, that's all going to have an effect on how alcohol um, affects our body. So the good news, the last line you see there, is that recovery is possible if we stop drinking. Right? Remember before we said that wonderful rejuvenative aspect of the liver is so good because it can heal itself. And so therefore, if we remove the toxic substance from our bodies, then the liver can heal itself and not be reharmed because of that. Okay. The folks will often get calls and say, I have liver disease. Is it okay if I have one drink here or one drink there? And what we always say to people is, if your liver is already harmed, why would you want to put something in it that's going to create some further problems for you? Your goal is to want to get your liver healed, and so you'd want to remove the toxic substance. You want to not put into your body the poison that created this. And so, but we tell people that that's up to them. But refraining from alcohol, becoming abstinent of it, your liver will then heal itself. Okay, fatty liver disease is something that can occur, and as we mentioned, it's fat around and in the liver. This can be associated with alcohol use, and again, the symptoms are rare because the liver doesn't have those nerve endings, and it doesn't let us know that something is wrong, and therefore we're not aware of it. But again, if we withhold the toxic substance, if we eat very nutritious foods, etc., that fat around the liver can be healed. The liver can go back and get right back into its nice pinkish smooth consistency that we want the liver to be. Okay. Now, alcohol-related cirrhosis. So this is the final stage, really, of someone who has been taking in alcohol over many years. Usually, the liver, as we saw, becomes more scar tissue. The liver becomes crumbly. It's not that filter that we want it to be. And at that point, usually the only goal is a liver transplant. Because the liver now, that wonderful rejuvenative ability, it can no longer do that. It has kind of tired itself out. And the hope, or the more immediate goal, I should say, of being diagnosed with cirrhosis is adopting a very healthy eating lifestyle, a very nutritious lifestyle, because as with many liver diseases, there are no medical treatments for it. So if somebody's will get calls on the helpline, and people will say, I was diagnosed with cirrhosis, but my doctor just sent me home. And what we tell people is that the part of the reason for that is there's no medical way to treat cirrhosis. We don't have medicines at this point to be able to try to cure the liver that has moved to the point of being cirrhotic. We talk about cirrhosis in 4 stages, and once it gets into those stages, then we're not able to, there's no medication that can help it. But actually, nutrition is the treatment, okay, for any of these liver diseases. Your healthy nutritional lifestyle really is the treatment, okay? So now the other most common of the liver diseases is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, okay? And as the name implies, this is fatty liver disease that happens because of many other issues. We talk about not just our eating, but also medications and genetics, or some other health issues that we may have, like diabetes. Okay, so NAFLD, as we most refer to it, okay, is literally fat that accumulates around the liver. Okay, when the doctor, if your liver enzymes are, the phrase we'll use is that if they are elevated, the next step is the doctor will want to do an ultrasound or a CT scan, because you can act, because the liver disease is visible. okay, just as we saw on those slides. And so with an ultrasound, or what we call an imaging test, the doctor can look at your liver and say, yep, there it is. We can see the fat and how much of the fat is around there. Again, people tell us, I've never had a drink in my life. How can I have liver disease? Well, no doubt it's fatty liver disease, and it's because of those other things that we had mentioned. Unaddressed, if we do nothing about, we're told you have fat around your liver, you got to make dietary changes, you got to lose some weight. If we don't do that, sadly, that simple fatty liver that is 100% curable can progress into that which is not curable, and that is cirrhosis, liver cancer, or liver failure. So when the doctor says to us, you got to lose some weight, you got to eat healthy, that's the treatment. Okay, that's the prescription. Okay, sometimes I think if we leave a doctor's office and we're not given a pill, we say they didn't do anything for us. But nutrition is the treatment in this case. The risk factors we already spoke about. And at the bottom there, you see it says, it is possible to have fatty liver for many years without showing any symptoms. And that's what we spoke about before, right? The liver is what we call the non-complaining organ, meaning that we beat it up and we do all this kind of stuff to it, and it, quote unquote, doesn't complain. And as we said, the negative side of that is that liver disease could be developing over many years. We don't know it. And then perhaps while looking for something else, a doctor says, oh, by the way, you have liver disease, and we're shocked. Which is why also, again, we talk about screening. When you have your annual physical, be sure that you do a liver screening. Nowadays, doctors are doing it by routine, but don't trust that, because make sure your doctor knows, no matter what your age, no matter what your health conditions, you always want to check your liver functioning, because even for people who have been taking medications over a long period of time, that can create, right, it's something good, but that can also lead to liver disease, and we want to make sure that we are aware of this. Okay. We're all used to the food pyramid. We might remember that. Well, science and nutritional science and everything has said to us, well, the pyramid now has been flattened, so we could see what's on your plate. And that just gives you a general idea. People ask us all the time, what does it mean to eat healthy? Generally speaking, eating healthy means, trying to eat those foods that are extremely fresh, foods that are have not been treated with any chemicals or preservatives. Foods. I heard a dietitian, a certified dietitian, speak one time, and she said, "You know what? The faster a food can go bad, the better it is for you, because that means that there's none of these chemicals and stuff in there to prolong its life." If somebody says, "Hey, listen, we've developed this loaf of bread that won't go bad for a year," don't even go near it. Okay, don't even attempt, because that means it's full of preservatives, it's full of salt and all these things that are really not good for us. And so we want to make sure that that we're eating right, and you see that by treating fatty liver disease, we're also helping with other things. We're helping with weight loss. We're controlling if you have diabetes, if you have high cholesterol. Being aware of this is helpful to all these other things. We always tell people that the healthy liver diet is a heart healthy diet as well, and so therefore we need to be very conscious. Finding these right foods, reading labels, it's really difficult to begin with, but you know what? You get the knack of it. After time, you'll walk into the supermarket or to whatever food store you go to, you'll know exactly the foods you want, you'll know exactly what's in them, and you'll be quote unquote treating yourself if you have liver disease. And if you don't, at this point, you'll never have to worry about it. So as we said, part of this this webinar and the information, we want to be preventative. So we don't want people to get liver disease to begin with. We want them to be aware of it. So many people on the helpline at the foundation, after we talk to them, they'll say, geez, I wish I knew this ahead of time. And so that's why we're trying to be proactive. And you'll see here what are some risks. One that people don't think about overexposure to household cleaners and sprays, paint, and other chemicals. When you're cleaning your house, if you're using some cleaners that are chemicals, put a mask on. Just wear the mask so you're not breathing in the fumes from those cleaners. Make sure you wear rubber gloves so that none of those chemicals and the soaps and everything are getting onto your hands. Just be very conscious of that, because again, all this stuff is coming into your body and it's being filtered through the liver, and you want to be very careful with that. Cigarette smoking, we already know that. We talked about the prescription use, as well as we don't never hear of overdose too much of over-the-counter um, uh, products, but they cause liver issues as well. And so we want to make sure that we're being very careful with those things. Tylenol, people, they have had back pain for years, and they're taking it all the time, and that could lead to liver disease. And so finally, so what are some signs and symptoms? Like we said, there's going to be very few. But if you begin to see a yellowing, a discoloration of your skin or eyes, usually we'll recognize this in somebody else before we see it in ourselves. But if somebody mentions that to us, we should pay attention. Abdominal swelling or abdominal pain. If you've been to your doctor for an exam, you'll know, as we spoke about before, that our liver is located. If you take your right hand and put it right at the bottom of your ribs and press, that's your liver right in there. And when we go for our exam, the doctor will have us lay flat, and he'll say, "Okay, inhale," and then the doctor presses under there, right? And the doctor's checking to see if there's any swelling, if the liver is enlarged in any way. And so if you're having any of the problems like that, you need to let the doctor know. Itching of skin is a really unique thing that occurs with liver disease, and a lot of people experience it. So if you're getting more than the usual amount of itching and stuff, you want to be very careful. Um, uh, because the liver is part of the digestive system, any digestive issues that begin to last over a long period of time, you want to be careful of. Chronic fatigue, part of what the liver does is it turns those nutrients into energy. When the liver is not doing that, the result is fatigue, right? I have no energy. That's because the liver is not converting our food into energy for us. We want to be careful with that. The same thing, loss of sexual drive or performance, sleep disturbances, even mental confusion. There's a condition called hepatic encephalopathy, which is from that buildup of the ammonia in our system. Any of these things begin to happen, you're going to want to talk to your doctor about them. Okay. And so finally, you'll see all of our contact information there. Please, at any time, contact us at the American Liver Foundation. We have folks on our helpline. We answer emails, and we have other, along with our website, we have Facebook and Twitter, all these different accounts that we want people to be a part of. We have online support communities. Some people live in some rather rural areas, or just in general, there are not many liver disease support groups, but thankfully we have online, and so many people are able to do that. And so the bottom line is keep calm, do the right thing, live as healthy as you can, and you'll be loving your liver for the rest of your life. So again, I'm very thankful to Carl and to NeedyMeds for allowing me to participate and to try to get this really important message out about the importance of taking care of our liver. Carla?
Warren, thank you so much for a very thorough and understandable presentation. I think a lot of people will agree that liver wellness is a heavy subject, and sometimes getting your mind around it can be a little bit overwhelming. But that's why NeedyMeds is so proud of a partnership with the American Liver Foundation, because not only do they have tons of up-to-date current resources, but more important, everybody that works there is approachable. They speak to you in plain language, and you can really understand what you're supposed to do, the steps you're supposed to take care of your liver, which affects everything about your life, really, at the end of the day. So thank you so much, Warren, for taking time out of your day to share your expertise with the NeedyMeds audience.
Sure. My pleasure.
Yeah, and and of course we're gonna get to some of the questions coming in from our audience in just a moment. In the
Okay.
meantime, you'll notice I switched my screen to a list of NeedyMeds healthcare cost savings resources. I'm not going to get into any of these. It's just a reminder that we are here to help you afford your healthcare needs. So please reach out to our website or a call center if you are having difficulty affording any of your healthcare needs, and we will do our best to assist you. And that's just, again, just a snapshot of our most popular cost savings
Mhm.
options. We do our best to populate our calendar with special topic webinars. You could check out some of the upcoming ones there. And again, you can register for those on the calendar events on the bottom right hand of our homepage. And I wanted you to leave you guys with the contact information for both the American Liver Foundation and NeedyMeds. And one other thing I wanted to mention, Warren went over discuss just a little bit because we don't have tons of time today, but he did touch upon alcohol in your liver. And previously, Warren's colleague presented a topic for the NeedyMeds audience. They did a presentation called Alcohol in Your Liver, and you can find that previous presentation on the NeedyMeds YouTube channel. So check that out, and of course, contact me if you have any difficulty finding it. So I'm going to leave this contact information up, and while that's up, I'm going to turn to the questions that are coming in from the audience for Warren. And one of the first questions coming in is, and this is a good one, is it true that I need to be careful of cleaning products, or this is a good one, or even my cat's litter box?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that this is one of the areas that we're always thinking about eating and drinking, right, as part of our liver. But as we mentioned, anything that comes into our bodies is going to be filtered through our liver. And so that's pretty cool about the cat litter, right? Even though nowadays, because I had a cat for many years, the litter in the box, it used to be like a cloud. When I refilled the litter box, this cloud would form coming up out of it. And you know what? We really do need to be careful of that. And so therefore, that's why I mentioned, if we're cleaning around the house, wear the mask, the little surgical mask. It's not a fashion statement, but maybe nobody's going to be seeing you as you're cleaning around your house. But wear the rubber gloves. Those. We want cleaning products to be caustic, right? We want them to get at the dirt and the grime. But if we're using our bare hands, it's going the other way too. And so we really need to be careful of that. And so again, it's one of the areas. Also, think about this with our lotions, right? Our hand lotions, our sun lotions, everything else. Obviously, literally, the idea of using that is we want it to absorb, right? If it doesn't absorb, we don't want it. But what's being absorbed, and so we want to be careful. Again, I'm in New York, so we're lucky that we do have these health stores around that sell natural types of personal products for us. And so, but you can go online and look for them too. Be careful that what you're using doesn't have chemicals, because you're rubbing those chemicals literally into your body. And so please do not get rid of your cats. I had a cat for a long time. Please don't make your pet homeless. Just be smarter about how you go about taking care of them.
Thank you for that answer, and thank you to our audience member for asking it, because I always feel that if one person is thinking about it, probably others are as well.
Right.
Another
Yep.
question coming in, it's true. Another question coming in is, my liver blood test showed high numbers for the first time. Is this something I should be worried about?
Yeah, we get this question a lot. People will call us, and we live in a time period now where we get our test results before we see the doctor, right? Now with computers and patient portals and all those types of things, we go for testing, and then within just a few days, they get posted. But our appointment may not be for another few weeks. Now the problem is we don't know how to read those test results. And so we have to be careful, because what we'll do is we'll pick out certain words, in there and think, oh my goodness, it's terrible, but we really need to be careful with that. Having said that, if your doctor does confirm for you that we call it the liver function test, okay, and that's done through blood test. And the three main tests that you'll hear are AST, ALT, and GGT. Now, I'm not going to say the medical terms of those because I'll mess them up myself, but it's good enough to know AST, ALT, GGT. And so those are the liver function tests. If you think of it this way, in doing its functioning, okay, the liver, there's a byproduct that is produced by the liver's functioning. Think of like a car exhaust, right? So, a car is burning the gas, okay, to make the car move, but there's a byproduct of that, and that's the exhaust, right? So by doing its function, the liver is going to have a byproduct. And so what this liver function testing is, it looks at the byproduct and says, you know what, there's just the right amount. We'll know that as levels that will, or values. As long as those numbers are in what's considered a normal value, it means the liver is working efficiently. It's doing its job, just like the car exhaust. Maybe you don't see it at all. So the engine is burning it efficiently. That's what you want. But if those numbers become elevated, which is usually the direction they go, that means that the liver now is having a little more challenge in doing its functioning. It's like the car that rides down the street that fills the whole street with fumes. Okay, there's something wrong with that engine. Okay, it's not working efficiently. So this is true as if our liver enzyme levels are elevated, it means that possibly, and I make sure I say that word, possibly something's going on. Now, liver function tests will not tell you what is wrong. It only is going to say your liver is not functioning properly. The normal procedure is the doctor will say, listen, 6 to 8 weeks, come back, we'll do it again. Okay, because these things are not, medicine is not exact. And there are so many things that could affect these numbers. There was somebody who told me a story. They had just come back from a cruise vacation of like 10 days. Well, if you've been on a cruise, you eat and drink like crazy on those. And so the person had their test right afterwards, but when they went back in the few weeks, everything had leveled out. So after that second exam, okay, so if the numbers are still somewhat elevated, this is when your doctor will want to do the imaging test, as I spoke about before. Because remember, liver disease is visible. And so the imaging test literally gives the doctor a look at your liver. Now the doctor can begin to determine, okay, what's going on? Is there a little bit of fat around the liver, right? Is there a little bit of fibrosis? Is there some of that hardening? Do I see some inflammation? Those are the things that are going to drive those liver enzyme levels up, because it means your liver is not functioning really effectively. And then once that determination is made, then you'll discuss with your doctor what you need to do. 9 times out of 10, well, I would say this immediately, even if on the first time your liver enzyme levels are elevated, watch what you're eating. Get immediately onto the type of diet we spoke about, because no doubt that's what it's going to be about. And you're not just doing this to pass the test. It's not like cramming for your exam at school and then you take the test and you're done. This is going to mean that you have to adapt this as a lifestyle change, and you're going to be better off for it. So if your numbers are elevated, you could be concerned in a good way until you meet with your doctor and you go over exactly what the test results are saying.
Thank you so much, Warren, for that thorough response, and again to our audience member for presenting it and giving Warren an opportunity to really delve a little bit more into that. I'm gonna press you just for one more question. I know we're technically out of time, but we do have a lot of questions coming in from our audience, so I want to sneak in just one more.
Sure.
And you did touch upon this, but it gives you an opportunity, I think, to expand upon it or drill home the point. Um, this audience member writes in that they were recently diagnosed with fatty liver disease, the non-alcoholic kind,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
but that their doctor didn't give them a prescription or any meds.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yep.
doctor just said to watch what I eat. And this individual wants to, again, just make sure, is that correct? And you did have an
Yep.
opportunity to go over this earlier, but I think
Yep.
speaking to it a little more would be useful to our audience.
Sure. Yeah, like I said, we have to adjust our mindset, that especially when it comes to liver disease, when the doctor says to you, Be careful what you're eating, lose a few pounds. That's the prescription. We don't normally think about it that way. As a matter of fact, I think most people roll their eyes and say, "Oh, the doctors, they always say that." But many of the conferences that the American Liver Foundation that our people attend, and we get to talk to doctors directly, at these conferences, what we've been telling them is because of this rise in liver disease and because of these fatty liver, they have to be more assertive in saying that what you have fat around your liver, and you got to be careful because if it's not addressed, it progresses. And again, we don't know it, and so we really want to be careful. When that doctor says, eat right, lose a few pounds, that's the prescription. Because there are no medical treatments for this, right? There are no pills that the doctor can give us or injection or a monthly shot we can get that will help our liver to heal. None of that exists yet. So the nutrition, if you have one phrase in your mind, just think nutrition is the prescription, and be careful of that. When we get calls in the helpline and somebody says, I was just diagnosed with cirrhosis and I'm shocked. And we'll always try to say, well, were you ever told that you had any kind of a liver issue? And I got to say, I'll say, 7 times out of 10, the person will say, well, I was told I had, some fat, years ago. But you know what? That's it. That's what it was. And so we really want to take this. Well, we should all be doing this anyway. As I said, the goal we want is preventative. We don't want to be told now you have to do this because. But aside from the fact that our again, given the way our food supply is, but just know that the nutrition is the treatment, and no matter what liver disease you have, that's going to be the number one thing, is going to be what you take into your body. And then you'll have those other things like the cleaning products and all those other types of precautions that you really need to take.
Thank
So
you
I
so
hope
much,
that,
and I'm glad
yeah,
our
I hope that
audience
answers
member.
that.
Yeah, I'm glad our audience member asked that question because
Yeah.
it gave you an opportunity to drill down a little bit more. And I really do like that. Nutrition is the prescription, and as you said, it's something we all need to be doing anyway.
Right. Yes,
So,
without a
right,
doubt. Yep.
so if it motivates you to get back on
Yep.
track, I mean, I'm speaking to
Yep.
myself here, for a healthier life,
Yeah.
that would be fantastic.
And I tell people, we
We
tell
have.
people too that
Mhm.
what, if you're cooking in this healthy way for yourself, what, you're making your whole family healthy, because everybody
That's right.
is eating healthy. It gets your family used to eating that way, and hopefully those are, you're just like you protect your kids from so many other harms out there. By eating right, you're protecting them from many of these diseases as well.
That's a great way also to describe it. And as everybody
Yeah.
can see, as evidenced by this wonderful presentation given today by Warren, this is why we're so proud of the relationship that NeedyMeds has with the American Liver Foundation. And Warren, we've twisted his arm to return next year for another presentation for our NeedyMeds
Yes.
audience, and we've also begged and pleaded for his other colleagues to return next year as well. So do be sure
Yep.
to check out the NeedyMeds calendar of events to see the series of American Liver Foundations that we will be hosting next year. And you get an opportunity to listen to Warren again, which I know we all look forward to. So with that, I
Good.
thank you again, Warren, for taking time to share your expertise with the NeedyMeds audience. And thank you to our audience for taking time out of what I'm sure is a busy day to learn a little bit about how to keep your liver healthy. Again, there's the contact information for the American Liver Foundation and NeedyMeds. Don't hesitate to reach out to either of our organizations. And for those of you that did ask questions, and unfortunately we didn't get the chance to answer them, reach out to the American Liver Foundation or NeedyMeds if you need an answer right away. If not, you can expect to hear from us probably not this afternoon, but maybe by tomorrow via email. So thank you,
Yep.
everybody, again, and have a
Okay.
wonderful rest of the day and stay healthy. Take care.
Thank you, Carla.